Hello, this is Shan Chandrasekar welcoming you to another delightful part of our programming. As part of the Achievers, we featured some of the finest of leaders around the world, prime ministers and presidents of nations, and biggest of movie stars, industrialists, politicians, and extraordinarily highly accomplished people in the field of science and technology. We are delighted to present one of the youngest achievers that we are very, very proud of, Atharva Desai. This youngster is an extraordinary race car pilot driver. Atharva, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me here. It's a wonderful opportunity.
Atharva, it's an incredible accomplishment that you are a Formula race car driver. Tell me a little bit about this Formula 1, 2, 3, and 4 and the graduation process.
Sure, of course. I would love to elaborate on that. So the top of the racing scale is Formula 1. That's where I aim to be. And not only just drive in Formula 1, I want to be the youngest world champion holder in Formula 1 history. That is what my dream and what I need to achieve. This year, I am doing Formula 3, which is just 2 steps below Formula 1. So we start with Formula 1 up on top, and then we go from Formula 2 to Formula 3, Formula 4, and then so on. So Formula 1's at the top, and then comes the lower. So I started off my career straight into Formula 4. I didn't do the other lower ones because my karting and my skills were pretty extraordinary. So I was able to jump straight into the Formula 4 series. Now I'm in the UK studying motorsport technology at Oxford Brookes University, right? So I'm learning engineering over here. But since I'm in the UK, which is the world's biggest center for motorsport racing.
That's fantastic. You know, you've got an intrinsic knowledge, from what I understand, of the mood and the mechanisms of a racing car. What is different about that?
Racing car is so just very profound, especially the Formula series itself. It's a very intrinsic and very beautifully crafted car. So if we take the average racing car, for example, you've got the basic chassis, basic components of your car, and you have your engine. That's all standard in the car. Now, what differs from Formula series to regular stock cars or GT cars for that matter is the amount of downforce it's able to carry. When I've driven the Formula 4 car, you're kind of just floating in space, really just using the peak of your ability, and you're soaring through the field like crazy. It's just the most profound, most beautiful experience. So this is why I've gone more into downforce racing, which is Formula racing, and that is what my dream is all about.
It's amazing. You were only 7 years old, a 7-year-old kid, when you got into go-karts. So tell me about that first interest. How did you get involved in this?
So I first started watching, I got interested in racing when I watched Formula 1 on TV. This is when I was in DC back at the time, and my dad was a huge follower of the sport. So one time I started climbing up to his couch when I was around 7 years old, like you said, right? I just climb into a couch and I just sit down and watch with them. I convinced my dad that I want to get into one of this, and he was very happy. So we went into our local Formula track, well, not Formula track, our go-karting track. And I started practicing my skills there.
You know, it's a very expensive sport. So needless to say, extraordinarily expensive hobby. So tell me about the economics of this.
Yeah, like you said, racing is a very expensive sport. It's definitely one of, if not the most expensive sport in all of sports history, of course. Now, being a racer, you have to be very good at racing, right? Well, like for example, I learned my talent for racing just when I got into the go-kart. I learned the basics of karting. I learned everything about it. And the first championship I went into, I won it in my rookie season. So my parents really saw this hidden talent inside of me, of course. So then they weren't very reluctant on spending their money, right? They freely said, I want you to go find your passion, find your dreams, and which I'm very thankful for my parents about. But when it comes to Formula 4, Formula Series, cost dramatically goes up. We're talking big league cars, carbon fiber body, perfect, just everything is custom made perfectly. So cost does go up quite a bit, which is why you not only have to be prove that you're very good on track, you have to prove you're also extraordinary off of track. That means handling with their media, um, managing your sponsors, talking with people, communicating, making connections, building trust. It's very important with racers to be a very all-rounded person.
You know, not only did you get very successful in karting a license to racing, but you know, you moved to a senior category and you were able to compete with some of the finest of race car drivers in the world to end up in the senior category. Tell me about that process. It must have been extremely gratifying to you.
When I first did the junior karting, right, I started practicing, understanding the line, taking track walks. So a track walk is basically before the race, I would go and walk on the track and I would just keep thinking in my mind, what can I do better here? How can I really improve my game? How can I really take this line perfectly, take this turn perfectly? Where can I shave off those few seconds? So my mind was constantly thinking about that. So in that gym, and this is what everyone else was doing as well, but I really said I have a lot to catch up. There were so many experienced people who know the track so much more than me. So I really have to develop and improve my skills for that. So in those terms, I just got faster and faster in the junior category. So my mentality was win the race and do whatever I can to do that. So my teacher who recommended me into the senior league saw that in me. So he said, it's okay. We can disregard the age. I want you to prove what you can do. And here I successfully proved it to him. And it's one of my most brilliant memories in all of my racing career.
That's terrific. Tell me about your experience in Sonoma Raceway in California.
I went there to test Formula 3, and these are the old Formula 3 cars. Nowadays, Formula 1 through Formula 4, they have paddle shifters, which are right behind the wheel. You have paddles, your sequential upshift, your sequential downshift, and there's automatic gearing. In the Formula 3s that Sonoma was providing to us, it was stick shift. So it was a sequential stick shift. This is similar to the times of old Formula 1, well, Ayrton Senna times, but it was quite an amazing experience in Sonoma to really get a feel of the car. When you're driving a manual transmission at any time, you can really just feel the car, feel exactly what it's telling you, because a car is a breathing, living thing. You're telling it to drive and you want to feel the responses giving it to them. It's all a response feedback. So whenever the car says, I want to shift now, you really feel that and you shift it. So the track itself was very technical, as in it had a lot of uphill corners, banked corners, which means corners road which are actually tilted sideways. So it was a very huge opportunity to learn about formula cars, as it was one of my few events that I got to learn about formula cars.
Terrific. What's the maximum speed you ever touched?
And the old Formula 3 cars is probably the fastest I've been. I would say tops 150 miles an hour.
Wow.
That thing goes fast. It's more speed across a corner as well. Whenever you see a corner, you would think, oh, then I would take that at a comfortable 25 miles an hour, where in reality, we're taking it at like 60, 70. So it's quite astonishing.
Wow. You touched 130 miles an hour?
Yeah, it was very impressive. One very long straight.
How does the adrenaline in you work just before you enter a race?
Now that is the one of the best feelings of racing. Whenever you're just stepping on the grid, your heart just starts beating faster. When you're on the grid, you're slowly waiting for the lights to turn on and then go green. So in that anticipation, no one's blinking a single eye. Every attention is to the light and making sure you nail that reaction time. So it's that adrenaline sticks with you for the entire race, and that's what gives you that much energy to just continue go faster and faster and faster.
You were very well noticed at the Formula 3 Palm Beach International Raceway in Florida. Tell me about that experience.
Palm Beach is when I learned extra basics, and there were probably at least 30 cars amongst the team. Amongst the entire race, there was around 30 cars, and I was one of them. I constantly set fastest times, fastest sectors, and I just consistently improved. So I didn't start off super duper fast. There were still people who are much faster than me. Palm Beach is when I learned just consistency is really key and really having patience with the car.
You won so many accolades. You were also selected by YRDA. What does that mean?
The YRDA, also called the Young Racing Drivers Academy, it's a drivers academy for Arden Motorsport. Arden Motorsport is a Formula 2 and GB3 team who takes young drivers and they put them in their cars and they start training them. Now you have to be selected. You have to prove that you are worth of being in that racing team because only a select few come in. When I first came into the UK, I first heard of Arden and I started getting in contact with the main principal. His name was Jamie Horner. My dad and I started talking to him, and we initially got a place saying, okay, come and interview for us and show us your racing skills. And I went through an interview. I talked to them professionally, and then we got into one of their simulators. Their Arden simulators are designed to mimic the exact feel of a Formula car without the cost of having to travel over to a track, booking the track, maintaining the car. So it's almost the exact same feeling. So they put me into one of their cars and they started telling me to drive on the simulator. And constantly I was racking up laps, getting used to the car. And then I started making faster sector times just consistently. I showed them my consistency, my art of that, my skill set, and my professionalism in racing. And they now accepted me in the YRDA. So now they have an article featuring me on their website. Additionally, now I go for the sim sessions to practice Formula 4 GB3. And now on Monday and Tuesday, they've invited me to test at Anglesey, which is just across the island in the UK on the northwest. And it's just a track and the sea right behind of it. And they're going to judge me on my practical skills in Formula 4, and based on my performance there, I could be selected into their Arden team.
How do you feel your academic achievement in the coming years is going to help you as a race car pilot and a race car driver?
So a little bit of backstory about this. I will first tell you who the most person I idolize the most. His name is Niki Lauda. He's held 2 world championship titles. And what I really like about him as well, not only was his craft just amazingly perfect, his mental fortitude was solid and his driving was extraordinary. He also knew race car engineering from the tip to the bottom. He knew everything about race cars. He knew how to just set it up from scratch. And I found that truly fascinating because as a race car driver, it's my belief that you have to be a very good driver, but you also need to know about the car. I should be able to communicate with my race engineer saying she's having too much understeer throughout this corner. This is his corner. So maybe we should just add more downforce on the front wing or try changing some dampeners, or we explore the possibilities over there. Really understanding that, it will just speed up the process and just highlight my consistency, not only as a racing driver, but as an all-known motorsport subject expert.
Obviously, Formula One is the biggest thing, so that's your biggest ambition in life. So, what can people expect from this great young man in the next 3 to 5 years?
Best thing you can expect from me, right, is to have a very huge name in the industry of motorsport, especially being not only a very good driver, but also be a subject expert. On top of that, the amount of marketing and the amount of sponsors I'll be communicating and working with to improve brands, improve my social media following, and just public approval in general, and just getting them to really get to know me. And as I said, it's all a journey. My dream is to go into Formula One, but it's also the amount of people I have behind me who I'm taking to that journey up over there. So it's all about whether I can bring someone into in my team. If we can work something out, someone who can help me get into Formula One, the faster we can go, the faster I can bring them with me. And yeah, that's basically what the entire spectrum is. I first started with Formula 3, like I'm doing this season, and then go to Formula 2, and then finally Formula 1. Until then, just really get my craft done, do my exercise properly, my proper dieting, just make everything perfect, and just achieving that goal of Formula 1 World Championship.
Atharva, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and we want to wish you all the best. May God bless you, and may all your dreams come true.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here.